Hi,
Okay,
everyone.
so welcome everyone to the second part of the return on property investment, whereby previously we covered about the rental income, how to calculate the rental yield. So for today, we are going to calculate the second part, understand the second part, which is the property equity. So I would like to invite my friend William to actually share about this topic.
Right, thank you, Raymond. Yes, we'll be talking about the return from property investment again. And in this case, in this session, we'll be talking about equity. So before that, want to know deeper what is property equity first. It is the market value of the property and deduct the total outstanding loan. So you must know that market value. So it is something that you need to sell it off first, then only you can access it. And to really calculate it, the equity, you need to review your mortgage amortization schedule first to see what's your outstanding loan and then what's the principal of the loan. And so let's proceed to the case study, because I believe by having the practical application, we'll understand better. And before we get deeper, let's talk about the asset first, asset, liability, and equity. Because in this case, property investment asset that we mean here is the market value of the property, and the liability is equal to liability and equity. So if you tweak around with the property formula, it is equity equal to the market value minus by liability. So let's look at the blue box. We'll be using that as our case study along the way. Let's say your asset, your property price at 200K and your liability is 130K. So your equity is 70K. Is everything so far okay?
Okay, so just want to ask about what do you mean by liability?
Oh yes, good question. Actually, liability is, in this case, is the loan that you took from bank. So yeah, is that answering the question? Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
In this case, 130K is the loan that you took, and equity in this case, 70K is the amount that you pay, maybe your down payment or even the stamp duty and all.
I see.
So moving forward, let's talk about the first case study. Generally, as what I said just now, the 70K is your out-of-pocket expenses, which is your down payment, stamp duty, and the cost that you pay for your property. But let's say you buy a property that is 20K below market value. So the asset here is still the same because it's net worth. The asset here is market value, so it's net worth. And let's say your liability is still the same, 130K, and your out-of-pocket expenses is, let's say, 50K. So because why I say 50K? Because it's 20K below market price, So you just now you pay 70K. Remember, generally here.
Yeah.
But here you pay lesser for your out-of-pocket expenses. However, if you remember the formula here, the equity must be equal to asset minus liability. So it is 70K here. Everything okay so far?
Oh, okay. That means somehow, even though I paid 50K, but my equity becomes 70K because I bought a property which is 20K below market value.
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to say? Okay,
yes.
Understood.
Good. So let's move on to another scenario. Let's say you do renovation with 25K. So here you can see that you spend extra 25K out of your pocket expenses. But then you realize that why asset increased 50K. So this is another scenario that let's say you do renovation, normally the price, the net worth will increase. So in here, we assume that the asset appreciate 50K after you spend 25K for renovation. And then in this case, liability is 130K. So the equity will increase by, just now it's 70K, then now it's increased by 50K because the amount of asset increases. So
I see.
okay?
Okay. Everything okay?
So,
cool.
So next is a more complicated thing because just now we mentioned about amortization graph. So when we need to talk about calculation, the really precise calculation, we need to include this amortization graph. So let's say in this case, you took 20 years loan with 5% interest rate. Just an assumption. So in this amortization graph, if you are new, let me explain to you. This is the amount of principal and interest that you pay throughout the loan tenure. So all the mortgage loan that you take for your property price will look almost like this, where if you see in the beginning, the interest rate will be higher and the principal amount will be lower. But towards the end of the loan tenure, the principal will be higher and the interest rate will be lower. This is just a common thing in amortization graph. So you also can see the table, the amortization table will look like this. You'll see the balance will slowly reduce, and you see the principal will increase slowly, and the interest rate will be higher from the start. So let's say we do a case study, the fourth case study, using the 10-year. Let's say we sell in a 10-year. Let's say the balance is 80.1K, 80.9K. So let's say the price of the asset of the property remain after 10 years at the 10-year. So out of pocket amount still the same because it's what you pay initially. But if you see the liability, right, reduces, which is what the thing that we showed just now, the table, at the 10-year, the balance is 80.9K. So you see the price of the liability reduces, the amount reduces, and you realize that the equity will still increase because although the asset remain the same, but the amount of your loan reduces, so equity increases.
Okay.
So, but then that is a worse, not so good case scenario. But let's say the price increases after 10 years. Let's say increase to 300K, and in the same time your liability still reduces because you have paid off your loan to a certain amount. Then you realize that your equity actually increases this much. So actually, to conclude the whole 4 case study, it's very interesting thing how to calculate equity because there are many factors affecting like the amortization graph, the market value, and also let's say if you invest a bit money to renovate it, your asset net worth might increases. So I think today I'll be sharing until here. Let me know if you have more questions, and maybe you can drop your questions below the comment box also. So if there's is there any question from you, Raymond?
So far I think it's quite clear, and then I find that actually when we talk about investment, this kind of sheet I find that is very important. When I say sheet, it's actually referring to the balance sheet. So I think some of the audience, some of the friends one of my customers also asked, how about the monthly installment that you paid? Aren't isn't it considered as one of the out-of-pocket expenses? So the answer is because right now we are talking about balance sheet. So if we talk about asset, liability, as well as equity, these three things. The other one will be in terms of the income statement, just like how you analyze a share lah. So the income statement part is the one that you talk about. In this case, month by month expenses in terms of maintaining property. So that's the part where we talk about the cash flow and the expenses and the income from the rental, which is covered by William earlier lah.
Okay, so thank you, Raymond, for the good sharing. Before we end today's session, I wanted to share another quote by Franklin Roosevelt. Real estate cannot be stolen, cannot be lost or stolen, nor can it be carried away. Purchase with common sense, paid for in full, and managed with reasonable care. It is about the safest investment in the world. So thank you. Hope to see you in another session. Goodbye.
Thank you, William. Bye.